Celebi, the voice of the forest. It's a mythical Pokémon said to only show up in times of peace. It's a symbol of hope, a sign that a bright future is on its way, and a guardian of all things natural. When Celebi appears, plants and trees just flourish. In the games, the anime, and really, in the hearts of most fans, Celebi is just this adorable, good-natured, time-traveling forest spirit. But that's not the whole story. Today, I want to make the case that this little 2-foot-tall onion fairy might just be the single most dangerous Pokémon ever created. It doesn't need universe-shattering power like Eternatus, or command over land and sea like Groudon and Kyogre. All it needs is to make one tiny mistake, and that one mistake could unravel the very fabric of history, erasing everything and everyone we know in the Pokémon world. So how could a creature so pure be such a threat? Well, the danger isn't in its heart, it's in its power. Let's start with the official story, the one we've been told for years. Celebi's Pokédex entries paint a very clear, very reassuring picture. In Pokémon Crystal, it's called the Guardian of the Forest. The entries in Ruby and Sapphire tell us that as long as Celebi shows up, a bright and shining future awaits us. It's not just sitting back and watching, it actively makes the world better, healing plants and even wounds. The anime, especially the movie Pokémon Forever, really drives this home. Celebi is the gentle voice of the forest, so pure that it's hunted for its amazing abilities. It's a friend to Ash and a boy named Sammy, showing them the wonders of nature. By all accounts, it's a force for good. The Pokémon Company has spent over 2 decades telling us that Celebi is a friend. But in doing so, they've also given us all the evidence we need to see the terrifying possibility hidden just under the surface. And this is where the perfect image of our little guardian starts to fall apart. The Pokédex says Celebi appears only in peaceful times. It's meant to be comforting, but if you think about it for a second, it's actually a massive red flag. Why only in times of peace? What happens if it travels to a time of conflict? The lore doesn't say. It only shows us the best case scenario and never explains the consequences of its travel. And when you're dealing with something as fragile as the timeline, the consequences are everything. This brings us to a little something called the butterfly effect. The idea is that one tiny, insignificant change can cause massive, unpredictable results down the line. A butterfly flaps its wings, and a few weeks later, a storm forms where one wasn't supposed to. Now, imagine that butterfly isn't just a bug. Imagine it's a Pokémon that can travel to any point in the past. The potential for disaster becomes almost a certainty. Celebi doesn't have to be evil. Let's say it's fleeing from a hunter, just like in the movie. It jumps back a few years to escape, but when it lands, it startles a young farmhand. The farmhand drops a bucket of water. He's 5 minutes late getting home because he has to refill it. Because he's late, he misses a key conversation with his son, a conversation that would have inspired that boy to become a Pokémon trainer. What if that boy was supposed to be a future champion? What if he was the one destined to stop a villain from destroying the region? With one little accident, Celebi could have doomed an entire generation without even knowing it. That's the terrifying power we're talking about. It's not about intent, it's about consequence. Now, you might be thinking, surely a Master of Time would be careful, but the evidence we have shows its power isn't always stable or precise. In Pokémon Forever, Celebi isn't in control when it first time travels. It's hurt and trying to escape when it accidentally drags a young boy, Sammy, 40 years into the future with it. It didn't choose the destination, it just fled. That act alone is incredibly reckless, ripping a child from his own time and changing his life forever. The movie also gives us a chilling look at what happens when Celebi's power is corrupted. The villain captures it in a dark ball, which twists a Pokémon's heart and maxes out its power. And what does this evil, supercharged Celebi do? It creates a giant, monstrous beast out of the very forest it's meant to protect, becoming a walking apocalypse of wood and vines. This proves that the same power that makes forests thrive can also be used to tear them to shreds. Then, after it's finally freed, Celebi dies. It just withers away, its life force gone. It's only revived when dozens of other Celebi appear from across time, past, present, and future, to bring it back. The scene is supposed to feel hopeful, but it's actually one of the most frightening things to consider. It confirms there isn't just one Celebi, there are many traveling across all of time. This isn't just one time bomb, it's a whole species of them, each with the ability to accidentally rewrite history. Before we get into what could really go wrong, if you're enjoying this look into the darker side of the Pokemon world, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We're always digging for the truth, and you won't want to miss what we find next. So let's play the what-if game for a second. We have a species of time-traveling Pokemon whose powers can be unstable, and whose smallest actions could have disastrous effects. What happens when we apply that to the history we know? What if a Celebi decides to visit Pallet Town 20 years ago? It sees Professor Oak with 3 Pokeballs ready for 2 young trainers. For just a second, Celebi distracts the professor. In that moment, an impatient Blue grabs the Squirtle that was meant for Red. Red shows up a minute later and has to take Charmander. A simple switch, right? But what if the specific timeline that led to the defeat of Team Rocket required Red to have that Squirtle? What if Red with a Charmander was a timeline where he was destined to fail? Just like that, history is rewritten. Giovanni wins. Or let's go even bigger. What if a Celebi travels to the ancient Hisui region? It sees the player, who was sent back in time by Arceus, struggling to survive. Out of kindness, Celebi steps in. Maybe it calms down a noble Pokemon before the player has a chance to prove themselves. A small, helpful act. But the whole point of that journey was for the player to build trust between humans and Pokemon and stop the space-time rift. By helping, Celebi might have prevented the very events that stabilized the region, causing the entire future of Sinnoh to collapse into chaos. And what about the villains? What if Celebi stops a construction project to save a forest? But that was the site where a young Getsus was supposed to have a change of heart. Now, his path is unchanged, and he goes on to form Team Plasma. Celebi wouldn't be doing it out of malice, it would just be protecting nature. But in its narrow focus on saving one forest, it could accidentally enable a madman. If you think this is all just wild speculation, the franchise has already shown us a Celebi from a broken timeline. In the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games, the future is a dark, paralyzed world where time itself has stopped. And who is a key character there? A shiny Celebi. This Celebi lives in that desolate future and actively helps the player go back in time to fix things. While this Celebi is an ally, its very existence is proof of our theory. It's a living, breathing resident of a timeline gone horribly wrong, a future of total ruin created by temporal interference. It's a precedent. It shows us that Celebi is tied directly to the stability of time, and it serves as a walking ghost of a future that could happen at any moment. When we think of the most dangerous Pokemon, we usually think of the gods. Arceus, who created everything, Dialga and Palkia, who command time and space. But those beings are like pillars of reality, often bound by cosmic rules. Celebi is different. It's not a pillar, it's a wild card. It doesn't have to be evil or corrupted to be the most dangerous thing in existence. All it needs to do is be itself. A curious, gentle creature that happens to hold one of the most unstable and consequential powers imaginable. It's a paradox, a bringer of peace that holds the power to start an eternal war with one innocent mistake. It's not just a guardian of the forest, it's a potential destroyer of history itself, a 2-foot-tall time bomb that could shatter reality and not even know it did. But what do you all think? Am I onto something here, or is Celebi's good heart enough to keep that power in check? And is there another Pokemon you think has a more terrifying hidden potential? Let me know your theories down in the comments. Thanks for watching!